You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today's episode 205, 7 Rules to Minimize Team Member Interruptions. If you're a business owner who wants to improve your time management and elevate your productivity so you can maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. Today, we're going to be diving into the topic of interruptions. We want to grow our team so that we can delegate and buy back time and grow our businesses and reach our goals faster and serve our clients at a higher level. And yet, sometimes it feels like it's 1 step forward, 2 steps back. With all of the interruptions and distractions from our team members, it can be incredibly challenging to find time to do your most focused work, your high-value activities, the work that will actually grow the business, the work that you're excited about, the work that you want to get done, and the reason why you actually hired a team. Well, I'm going to tell you that it absolutely does not need to be that way. In this episode, as I said, I'm going to share 7 rules, but these rules are standalone strategies that you can implement right away. And what I love most is that you are the business owner. You get to decide what are the standards, what is the culture, how does your business operate so that you and your team can run most effectively, efficiently, and productively. So stay tuned as we go through the 7 rules. I am going to challenge you to choose one rule, implement it, put it into practice, execute on it, then add another and add another. Find out what feels right for you and take action to no longer be so frustrated with all of the interruptions from your team members. And before we dive in, I want to make sure that you get your hands on my free mini training that I'm offering to you. It's called Take Back Your Time. So if you've ever said, I wish I had more time, there's never enough time, then this mini training is for you. I am sharing specific strategies that I guarantee will give you back 30 minutes each and every day, compounded day after day. That is a big promise, but a promise that I stand by. So make sure you get your hands on it. In your podcast app, tap the notes, click the link, and grab your free Take Back Your Time mini training. Or you can head on over to amberdelagarza.com/take back your time. And now let's get to the straight talk. All right, so before we dive into the 7 rules, I want to start off by telling you that these 7 rules or strategies are going to be beneficial to you no matter where in the world your team is. Perhaps you share an office, a small office, your desks butt up against each other and you're in the same room all day, every day. Or perhaps you have team members that are all over the world or across the United States. I don't want you to limit yourself thinking, oh, that doesn't apply to me because my team isn't interrupting me in my office. Interruptions come so easily through all of the technology that we have, whether that be text messages or emails and Slack and chat rooms and Google Chat, Boxer, you name it, your team can get a hold of you even if they are not sitting in your office. But if they're sitting in your office, you have the added availability almost at any time because y'all looking at each other all day, every day. So what I'm going to share with you, please know the strategies can be tweaked and adjusted based on how your team is designed. All right, number 1, schedule regular meetings. No, I mean it. Regular meetings with anyone on your team that directly reports to you. And regular meetings can be a combination of team meetings, one-on-one meetings, quick huddle meetings. But having that consistency in their schedule and your schedule, I guarantee will reduce interruptions. You see, when team members don't know when they're going to see you next, they're going to try and grab your time and attention any chance they can get because they're thinking, if not now, when? They don't have the predictability to filter, is this something I need to ask now or can I wait till my meeting on Wednesday? Do I need to reach out to you, the owner, now? Because I'm not sure when I'm going to get to see them again, right? But if you have a regular one-on-one meeting or a regular team meeting, they'll start filtering what they need from you based on when they're going to see you again. So if you have a regular team meeting on a Monday and it's a Friday and they can press pause and know that they can get their question answered on Monday, they're not going to interrupt you on Friday. Or perhaps it's even a weekly one-on-one meeting where they do have questions, but it is not urgent and it's not going to hold them up. They can keep a list of questions to ask you at the top of your one-on-one meeting. Every meeting that I have with a team member, I first start off by asking, is there anything you need from me? That's the first agenda item because I have set that expectation and that standard that unless they absolutely need my eyes on something, my attention, my energy, my time, then I expect that they're holding the questions for an appropriate time, such as our one-on-one meetings, to limit the interruptions in my day. All right, so my advice here is to start setting regular meetings and be in integrity with yourself and your word and your team members. What that means is that as soon as you set a one-on-one meeting or a team meeting, and let's say you show up for it for 2 weeks, and then the third week you cancel, you reschedule, something else pops up, and then you schedule it again, and you show up, and then the next week you cancel, you reschedule, you change the time. This actually breaks the trust with your team members. They actually are not going to be able to predict when they get to see you again. And you're kind of telling them that that time with them is just not that important. And so one way in which I encourage my clients to shift that mindset is that an hour with a team member or 90 minutes with your team is such a huge investment. If you're able to delegate out tasks and projects and give clarity and clear communication, that hour can turn into 15 hours of work, 20 hours of work, 40 hours of work. And so where else in your business can you invest an hour and get back that type of return on that investment? And the more time that you're able to give to your team members on a structured schedule, such as meetings, you are going to be able to limit the interruptions, allow them to get what they need so that they can work effectively and efficiently on your behalf. Because I like to believe that our team members ultimately just want to do a good job. They want to do their work well. And so if there's something that they need from you, they're going to reach out because they don't want to stall. They don't want to not be able to do a good job in their work. So they're going to reach out, interrupt you. You're going to give them the answer. Your day, your minute, your meeting, your time to work on your projects are interrupted, but they got what they needed to move forward. So we want to be able to structure that consistently inside of meetings. Number 2, delegate with complete details from the start. Now, that can happen in a one-on-one meeting. It can happen in a kickoff meeting, like a project kickoff meeting, specifically around a project. That can happen in your project management system about giving them all the details they need from the start to set them up for success. Oftentimes, business owners run at a very fast pace, and sometimes you're not actually detail-oriented. But I'm going to tell you that the time that it will take to improve the skill set of saying, what information, what do they need? What are the details they need to do a great job? And setting up a process and a system for that will allow them to work independently for many, many, many more hours, even days, without interrupting you, because you're not going to be peppering out the details based on what they asked. You're going to be able to give that to them all up front. So if you don't have a proper way of delegating out tasks and projects to your team members, a great place to start is asking yourself, what is everything they need to do a good job? Number 3, communicate accessibility boundaries. What this means is that instead of making assumptions that they should just know not to call you on a Saturday afternoon or to text you, or that you're off at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard, or maybe it's 3 o'clock Eastern and your team member is on the West Coast. Clear communication can actually resolve a lot of interruptions. But before you can have clear communication with your team members, you first need to get very clear about what it is that you want. What are your boundaries? And if you don't currently have clearly defined boundaries, now is the time to sit down with a pen and paper or type it up on your computer and ask yourself, when do I want to be available to my team members? And that may look like you are not available on weekends. You are not available after 5 p.m. That can look like I'm not available in the mornings. I will be available in the afternoons because the mornings are your focused work time. There are so many options here for you to define when you are and are not available. Without clear expectations and boundaries here, when a team member reaches out to you, because you're the business owner and because you don't want to be the bottleneck in resources and maximizing their potential to get work done for you, there is an opportunity to allow those interruptions to seep in any type of personal time. So when you're clear with these boundaries, it allows your team members to adjust their schedule, to adjust their expectations on if they email you or they text you or however you are agreeing that they reach out to you. You know that you actually don't have to respond to them because it's an agreed up time that you are not available. This will help considerably in work-life balance. Because you may have team members that are not working the same schedule as you. And it is completely okay to not be available to them 24/7, 7 days a week. You need to define what works for you, clearly communicate that to your team members. Number 4, and I alluded to this in number 3, but number 4 is communicate your preferred communication methods. Clarify it. Be really, really clear. How do you want to be communicated to? And like I said, this can look like walking up to your desk, calling you, texting you, emailing you, DMing you, Slacking, messages inside your task management or project management program, walking right into your office. What is your preferred communication method? And a quick tip here is to have a consistent communication method with all team members. Because there's so much information coming in at you so quickly in a day or a week, it really helps if you can funnel that through 1 or 2 preferred methods. So for example, in my business, I do not want my team members in my email at all. That is not where my team is to communicate to me with or at. They are communicating to me within our project management system, ClickUp. And with one exception. So my EA, my executive assistant, she communicates with me on Voxer. Now, the rule here, though, is I communicate with her on Voxer. She can respond to my communication of reaching out to her on Voxer, but I don't want her to initiate communication on Voxer unless it's incredibly time sensitive. Meaning, Voxer works for me as outbound communication. It's the fastest way for me to get things off of my mind, to quickly communicate without having to type or create a task. And there's a lot of quick moving parts in the position of my EA. So we utilize Voxer. But if it has to do with any ongoing task or project, it is not communicated to me via Voxer ever. it's going to show up in our task management system. That allows me to be really clear with seeing everything that I need to see. Nothing falls through the cracks. I do not feel as overwhelmed as if I had team members texting me and calling me, walking into my office. So, what is your preferred communication method? The nuances to this are, it could be different for different roles in your business. It could be different based on different responsibilities or urgencies. But if you can get really, really clear with your team, you are not going to feel as overwhelmed having all the communication coming to you in all the different places. All right, number 5. Communicate what is considered important and worth interrupting you for. All right, this is really big, and we have to give specific examples to our team members. Our team members are not mind readers, and this is often a great coaching opportunity. And I'm going to tell you that what you consider like urgent to interrupt may be different than a team member perception of what's urgent and to interrupt. And so what I have found is this is an ongoing opportunity to give feedback. And so if you say, I want all communication through my project management system unless it's urgent, here are some examples of urgency. And you have a team member that's consistently knocking on your door, texting you, calling you with what they determine is urgent. They don't get to determine what's urgent. You determine. So after you hear, I would love for you to give them feedback. If you don't believe it's urgent, you would say something like, thank you so much for letting me know that. That is really not urgent or time sensitive. I would prefer that communicated to me inside of, for example, for us, it would be ClickUp. All right. So if you just don't respond, like you may have the internal thought, oh my gosh, that's not an urgent, that's not an emergency. Why are they interrupting me? Why did I need to know that right now? Do not allow that to fester internally. Give them feedback so that you're guiding them and giving them those boundaries of what's considered urgent. The flip side is true on that too. And I had a really good example that actually Crystal reminded me of as we were outlining this episode. She does a website audit for me. And every month she goes through the website and she's checking to make sure nothing's broken, the images are right, just overall, because I'm not on my website all the time. So we have an internal process where she does website auditing. Well, she gives me an outline of everything that she finds or recommendations, and generally none of it is time sensitive. But there was this one time that she slipped in there that like a major link to pay, like a payment link was broken on the website. And for me, a website audit just is not a high priority. And so I would get to reading the notes and going through it when I had an opportunity. Far more other things would be higher priority in my world. So a couple weeks goes by, I read the notes and I'm like, oh my gosh, we've had a broken payment link for 2 weeks. That needed my eyes on it immediately. Like that is worth texting me. That is worth like notating urgent inside the notes if you get to me. So I gave her that feedback and some other examples of here's non-time sensitive corrections that if you found on the website, I would get to them or review them when I could. This here needs to be highlighted because I have so much going on in my world. I'm not able to look and see and filter everything. So I need team members to raise the level of urgency when they see something that is urgent. So the feedback can go both ways, right? You can give them feedback of that is not urgent. I would prefer you to email me, text me, whatever that looks like, which is your preferred communication method. Or you can actually give feedback to say, okay, so when this happens, we need to get in front of it right away because it affects our install. It affects our delivery to the client. It affects the end result timeline. And if days go by, we've just lost days. So that's something that cannot wait till our one-on-one meeting. Okay? These are all amazing opportunities to coach our team members and give them feedback, which ultimately just creates better culture, better communication, better expectations. There is nothing wrong with this type of feedback. I just want to urge that to you. So if you are not comfortable with this type of feedback, just know it's feedback in the sense of you're coming from a place that you are assuming everyone wants to do their best. And ourselves too, but our team members as well, is we don't know what we don't know. And so if there's information that you're holding about what is urgent, what's not urgent, what's appropriate, don't hold that to yourself. Give real-time feedback. Number 6, solve for root problems that they come to you for. Okay. So what I call this is you don't want to just keep putting Band-Aids on problems that your team members bring to you. If you start seeing a pattern of problems that you're solving, and problems generally require some sense of urgency, interruption, it could hijack your schedule, it could hijack your private work time because we're labeling it a problem. So if you see a problem happening like over and over, I want you to really take the time and ask yourself, what is the root problem with this? What is causing the recurring interruption? Because you may be solving the problem they're bringing to you in that moment, but you're not solving the thing that is causing recurring interruptions. So for example, I have a client who runs a fabrication shop, and he was interrupted over and over and over again. Lots of different types of interruptions. But I asked him to take an audit of what are some of the recurring interruptions that were sabotaging his focused work time. And one of them was his team members out in the shop telling him what needed to be ordered. And it could be regular consumables that are out in the shop. It could be special order items. There was no rhyme or reason, but it was things that needed to be ordered because he was responsible for ordering. And because there wasn't a simple system to gather that information in a way that didn't interrupt him all day, every day, he was being interrupted all day, every day. And this was as simple as putting a whiteboard out in the shop, telling the team members that as you realize that something needs to be ordered, you add it to the whiteboard. And then my client will review the whiteboard on a regular basis, take the order, clear the whiteboard, and everyone gets their things ordered and no one had to be interrupted. So what that allowed is for him to batch the activity of getting the information about what needed to be ordered and ordering it. Also, just in case there wasn't a trigger for everyone out in the shop, he added it as an agenda item to the regular Monday morning meetings to say, is there anything that anyone needs ordered this week? Like just as a reminder, like, hey team, does anyone need anything ordered? And they can just answer that question within the meeting, notes are taken, and that's another way to batch it. This one strategy, or an A-B strategy, it's kind of two-part, was able to reduce his interruptions. But in real time, when we're moving fast, we just don't think it's that big of a deal, right? Like we're thinking, okay, yep, I'll get that. Yep, I'll write that down. But what we're fighting for here is protecting our mental bandwidth. When we are being interrupted and asked to focus on all these random things that our team members need us to focus on, it is incredibly difficult and energy draining to switch tasks and to do your most focused work. So we are protecting your time, your attention, your energy by just fixing some of the root causes. Another example here is, do you have team members that are asking you for passwords all the time? Right? And you're like, yeah, I'll get that to you. I'll email that to you. I'll text that to you. Yep, I got that. Nope, we changed the password. As you're a team, that could be a common interruption. To fix that, the root fix is to get a password management program. And that could be something like LastPass. So if you want to learn about LastPass or ClickUp or any of the other tools that I've shared, we are going to link out to those in the show notes. But I also have a page on my website called My Toolbox, which are tools that we actually use in the business that I recommend. And you can get that by going to amberdelagarza.com/tools. toolbox. But LastPass and setting that up and taking the time to set that up once for you and your team could reduce a lot of interruptions and lost time looking for, finding, and communicating login and password information. Number 7, coach your team to think critically and problem solve. This is one of my favorite strategies. So when your team members bring you something and they're like, what should we do? And it's just an open-ended question. What should I do? Or what is the next step? Or I have this challenge. I don't know what to do, right? It's an open-ended question with the assumption that you are going to solve that. And this can be incredibly taxing. You are not the firefighter. You are not the end-all be-all problem solver. I would love for you to coach your team and ask them, well, what do you think the next step is? What are some options? Can you present me with some options? What do you think? I want you to volley it back to them, like put it back in their ballpark, because chances are they actually do know. Chances are they actually do have an opinion, but whether they're not confident or they're not quite sure or they're afraid they're going to make a mistake, whatever the motivating factor is, when you ask them, well, what do you think? Then you are asking them to do critical thinking and to problem solve for themselves. And here is the magic with that. You give them feedback, coaching in real time, and you say, that is great. That's a great suggestion. I think that's the next step, right? That's a lot less energy on your behalf. And you've now empowered them and told them their idea is actually a great idea. And you do that enough times, they're going to stop asking you open-ended questions because you are going to empower them to have critical thinking and to problem solve. And you're going to allow them to build that confidence in their role. And building their confidence in their role will ultimately limit the number of interruptions and questions that they're bringing to your doorstep. And on the flip side, let's just say you say, well, what do you think we should do? Can you provide me with some options for solving this? And they don't give you an option that you agree with, or they don't give you a solution that you agree with. That is totally okay, because that's a coaching opportunity as well. You can say something like, oh, okay, can you tell me why you think that strategy is the best way forward? Now you get an insight into their problem solving, critical thinking, and maybe they're going to ask you to think of it differently, which is a win. There's been times my team members have absolutely brought a solution that I would have never thought of. And if I would have just shut it down, I wouldn't have learned and seen that there was another option. But 2, if it truly isn't the best option to move forward, then you tell them, you know what? Thank you for that solution, but here's what I would do and why I would do it. And here's what I was thinking. Now, instead of just hollering off a quick answer, a quick solution with nothing behind it, it's a teaching, coaching opportunity where you could tell them, okay, well, this is actually how I would solve that, or how I would answer that email to a client, or how I would, move forward. And now you are giving them the confidence, the experience, so that next time they are better prepared to solve that problem on their own. All right, so let's wrap up today's episode with the top 7 rules or strategies to minimize team member interruptions. Number 1, schedule regular meetings. Number 2, delegate with complete details from the start. Number 3, communicate accessibility boundaries. Number 4, clarify preferred communication methods. Number 5, communicate what is considered important and worthy of interruptions. Number 6, solve for the root problems of the interruptions. Number 7, coach your team to think critically and problem solve on their own. All right, so if you enjoyed today's episode and you found today's episode valuable, I think you're going to love it inside Leverage Lab. Head on over to amberdelagarza.com/Leverage Lab to find out more about my coaching, accountability, and training experience. Again, head on over to amberdelagarza.com/Leverage Lab. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. At the beginning of the episode today, I asked you to identify one rule or strategy that you are going to implement, and then choose another and another. So, of the 7 rules or strategies, take one moment and decide, what are you going to implement with your team right here and right now? All right. I guarantee you are going to see an improvement in the number of interruptions you're getting from your team members. And just imagine what that would look like if you stacked all 7 of these rules on top of each other. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.